In a quiet neighborhood, a man walking home after a long day's work hears a child's desperate cry. Without thinking, he rushes toward the sound, only to find a young girl on the edge of a dangerous situation. He saves her, but what he discovers about her past will shock him and change his life forever. It was late afternoon when Ethan Collins, a middle-aged man with a tired smile, stepped off the bus, his shoes clicking against the sidewalk as he made his way home. The neighborhood was peaceful, just as it always had been. Tall trees lined the streets, casting long shadows on the pavement. Ethan was used to the quiet hum of suburban life, where the most dangerous thing he had to face was the occasional car alarm going off in the middle of the night. He had walked this same path for years, a simple routine after working a full day as a construction worker. Today was no different, until it wasn't. As he walked past the old brick house on Maple Street, a shrill cry pierced the calm air. His heart skipped a beat as the sound echoed through the street. A child's voice, trembling with fear and desperation. Ethan's steps slowed, his mind racing. He had no idea where the cry came from, but it was clear someone was in trouble. Without thinking, he followed the sound around the corner of the street. There, in the middle of the park, he saw her, a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, standing near the edge of a dangerously busy street, her eyes wide with panic. Her small hands were shaking as she stared at something just out of view. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He ran toward her, his legs pumping hard, until he reached the girl and gently grabbed her arm. She flinched, but he spoke softly, trying to calm her. "It's okay, you're safe now," he said. "What are you doing out here?" The girl looked up at him, her eyes filled with terror, and for a moment, she didn't respond. But then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, "I was trying to get away. I couldn't let him catch me." Ethan's heart raced as he looked down at the girl. He could still hear the distant hum of the cars on the street, but nothing seemed as important as the child's words. She was clearly frightened, her wide eyes darting around, as if expecting something or someone to appear. Ethan knelt down to her level, trying to offer comfort. "Who's after you?" Ethan asked gently. "Is someone chasing you?" The little girl hesitated before nodding, still trembling. He's the man who takes people," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm supposed to stay hidden, but he found me." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. He couldn't make sense of it. The look in her eyes was pure terror, and he knew that something was seriously wrong. But before he could ask more, the girl bolted upright, her eyes darting towards the trees lining the park. Ethan's gaze followed hers, but he saw nothing. "Don't let him get me," she screamed, her voice panicked. She turned and tried to run back towards the alley, but Ethan grabbed her arm once more, stopping her. "It's okay. I've got you," he said firmly, trying to steady her. "Who's after you? We need to tell someone, get help." But the girl was no longer listening. Her eyes were wide with terror as she pulled away from him, her small frame trembling with fear. Ethan heard it then, a noise from behind, footsteps, quick and purposeful, closing in fast. He spun around just in time to see a man walking quickly towards them. The man was tall, wearing a dark coat that seemed out of place for the warm afternoon. His face was hidden in the shadows, but there was something about him that sent a chill down Ethan's spine. The girl gasped when she saw him. "It's him! It's him!" she cried, stumbling backward. Ethan stood in front of the girl instinctively, his body tense, ready to protect her. "Stay behind me," Ethan said, his voice steady, though his heart was pounding. The man stopped a few feet away, his eyes scanning Ethan and the girl. Ethan could see the tension in the man's posture. This wasn't just a passerby. He knew something was off. "Leave her alone," Ethan demanded, trying to keep his voice strong. The man didn't respond. Instead, his eyes narrowed, and for a long, uncomfortable moment, the two men stared at each other. Ethan's heart raced as the man finally spoke. "She's mine," the stranger said, his voice cold and unnerving. "Step aside, and I'll make this easy for you." Ethan's instincts screamed at him to protect the girl. He stepped forward, blocking the stranger's path, his body tensing. "I don't know who you are, but you're not taking her," Ethan said, his voice firm. He had no idea what was going on, but one thing was clear. This man was a threat. The man stared at Ethan for a moment longer, his expression unreadable. Then, without warning, he took a step back, his hands raised slightly in mock surrender. Ethan's grip on the girl tightened, but he didn't move. "I don't want any trouble," the man said in a low, cold voice. "I just want to take her back." "Take her back?" Ethan repeated, his confusion growing. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" For a moment, The stranger hesitated, his eyes flicking toward the girl. He let out a quiet sigh and finally spoke, his voice laced with something approaching resignation. She doesn't remember me, but she should. I'm her father. Ethan felt as though the ground shifted beneath his feet. Her father? How could this man be the girl's father? Everything about him seemed wrong. And yet, there was something in his voice, something that hinted at truth, however sinister. The girl gasped, looking up at the man with a mixture of confusion and fear. No, she whispered, backing away. You're not my father. You can't be. The man took another step toward her. It's me, sweetheart. I've been looking for you. Ethan's mind raced as he processed the information. Something was terribly off. He looked at the girl, who was shaking, her wide eyes locked onto the man with distrust and terror. He could see the hurt in her expression, the years of pain, the fear of someone she didn't want to recognize. Tell me the truth, Ethan demanded, his voice low. Why is she so afraid of you? The stranger's expression darkened. I'll tell you, but not here, he said quickly, glancing nervously around. She's not safe yet. There's a lot more going on here than you realize. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. What could this man be talking about? How could a father be a threat to his own daughter? The situation felt wrong in every way, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple rescue. Where are you taking her? Ethan asked, his voice steady, even though his instincts screamed at him to keep the girl safe. The stranger paused, looking at Ethan with a strange mix of caution and frustration. I don't want to hurt her, he said, his tone softer now. But I need to take her back to where she belongs. The stranger stepped back, his face growing pale with anxiety. You don't understand. You can't understand what's really happening here. The girl's expression hardened, her little fists clenched at her sides. I don't want to go with you, she said, her voice trembling with a quiet defiance. I don't know you. I don't remember you. And I don't trust you. Ethan could feel the tension building, the uncertainty gnawing at him. He needed to know the truth. He had to. He glanced at the girl, his instincts still telling him she was the one who needed protection. I think you owe us an explanation, Ethan said, his voice steady and commanding. Now, the man glanced nervously over his shoulder, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flash of something almost human, a flicker of fear, of desperation. This isn't just a family reunion, the stranger said, his voice lowering as though he was sharing a secret. The truth is, I didn't just lose her. She was taken. She's not just some lost child. She's part of something bigger. Ethan was still processing what he had just heard when the stranger continued, his words making his heart skip a beat. Your daughter was part of a witness protection program. I've been trying to find her for years. The people who took her for a reason. And now, they're coming for her. The revelation hit Ethan like a ton of bricks. The girl wasn't just lost. She was a witness, someone who had been hidden away for her protection. But the danger hadn't gone away. It had followed her, and now it was threatening everything. Ethan turned his gaze to the little girl, whose face was filled with a mixture of fear, anger, and confusion. She didn't fully understand the weight of what was happening, but Ethan did. He couldn't let her go with this man. Not yet. Not until the whole truth came out. I won't let you take her, Ethan said, his voice firm, as he stepped in front of the girl once more. Not until we get to the bottom of this. The stranger stared at him for a long moment before nodding. I don't want to hurt her, but this is bigger than both of us. If you want to keep her safe, you'll have to trust me. Ethan didn't know if he could trust the man, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning of something much darker than a simple rescue. Ethan wasn't just protecting a child. He was protecting a secret that could unravel everything. As the man stepped back, Ethan turned to the girl, offering her a hand, silently promising that he would protect her, no matter the cost. Together, they would face whatever came next.